My brother and my colleague, the Honorable Cabinet Secretary for ICT, Mr. Joe Musheru, my colleague from the Ministry, PS Dr. Belio Kipsang, my sister, the CEO at the Teacher Service Commission, Madam Nancy Masharia, our good friend and our very able chairperson of the Kenya National Examinations Council, Professor Magoa, and the team from NEC who are here, and all of you, my colleagues who are here from government across the spectrum of responsibility. I am so grateful for the opportunity we have this morning to release KCPE results. But before I do so, please allow me to, on behalf of the education sector in the country, to sincerely, because this is the first time I'm getting a public opportunity, to congratulate two of our colleagues, the Honorable Wilson Sosion. It sounds nice to say Honorable Wilson Sosion, nominated Member of Parliament, who's in our audience, and also the Secretary General of KNUT, and the Honorable Mboko Mirembe from Kupet, who is an elected Honorable Member of Parliament, and it sounds nice to call him Honorable Mirembe. We congratulate you as your colleagues in the education sector upon your new responsibilities, and we enthusiastically look forward to you being our advocates in Parliament as people who understand our sector and people who are part and parcel of us, so that when we come before Parliament, we will come with greater confidence than in the past, because within the ranks of the National Assembly will be our own colleagues, so it will be easier to explain ourselves when we bring our needs and we come to discuss the issues that we want in Parliament. And I pray that by the grace of God, you all end up in the Education Committee, so that it makes our work even much more easier. But we wish you well, very sincerely, and we thank many of our colleagues from the sector who have found new responsibilities. I know there are quite a number of us. I was looking around to see whether Janet Mudhoni Ouko is here from Elimu Yetu, the new CEC for Education in Nairobi County. And again, someone from our sector who has been given responsibility in an area closely related to us. And we are grateful to her, and we congratulate her too as we move forward. Secondly, I will be very brief also, because we are here for a very simple, straightforward exercise. And as you know, we've always wanted to ensure that we work in a very professional and effective manner and do the work that we are supposed to do effectively. So I start first of all by thanking everyone. I'm very grateful as a citizen of this country. And I want to say this on behalf of the parents of Kenya, that we are indeed and should always be grateful to God for our children. God has been kind and gracious to us and blessed us as a country with children. And all of us, especially those of us in the education sector, have a special responsibility to raise our children in a responsible manner and raise them up for the Lord who gave them to us. And that is why all of us have gathered here to release the results and, of course, spend more time to reflect on what we are going to do with our children. I thank all of you, my colleagues, again, across the spectrum of responsibility. I'm so proud to be part of this team. My colleagues from the Ministry of Education, the entire technical team, both from Jogo House and those who work in the agencies of the ministry, because we all agreed in the Education Ministry that we will be involved in exams. So the CEOs of our parastatals were out, the directors from our parastatals were out, and all of our senior directors were out across the country. I'm so grateful to you. I have a special gratitude to register for our colleagues at the Teacher Service Commission. And Nancy, as always, I would like you to know that our strong and solid partnership with the Teacher Service Commission means something to the development of the education sector. I am grateful to your personal commitment as the CEO and the Secretary to the Commission, and I thank the commissioners for their consistent collaboration with us as we move forward. My colleague teachers who are in this audience, whether you are here through the unions or you are here through the professional organizations, we are very grateful. the Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association, my good friend Mr. Ndimuli, and KEPSHA, my good friend Dolo, and the Kenya Private Schools Association. I can see the representatives in the room. I think, let's say this, that by the grace of God in the sector, we have come to where we ought to be, where we are engaged in constant conversations. We work together because all our focus should be on our children. That is how we will succeed as an education sector. We are walking further and further away from the difficult times in the past when we spent so much time talking at each other. We will not be right all the time, and I am very honest about this. There are times when the unions are right in the issues they raise, and we will be candid and humble enough to say, let's put in your contribution. This year, the chairperson of NEC did not make the announcement that we decided deliberately to form a contact group for the teachers. KESHA gave us a committee which works with us on exams, so that when we do the planning and whatever we do, we consult consistently with our colleagues in the field, and we are sure that we do the right things. We have remained in constant consultation with the private schools through KEPSA. I have remained in constant consultation with most of the stakeholders in the sector. Let us move forward this way, because God has blessed us with a wonderful country, and let us now continue working together for the sake of our children, so that we raise our children up responsibly. Of course, I can't thank my colleagues enough. This is the first time since the independence of this country when government has been deployed in its largest and broadest sense in the management of exams. Many of you met my cabinet colleagues in the field, our principal secretaries, a huge number of government officials who are involved in the management of exams. I have explained this, and I would like to do it again. We did this because, as the president told us, we were actually conducting exams in the backdrop of a very difficult year when we have gone through fairly acrimonious campaign period. A lot of things have been said, a measure of anxiety in the country, and the president decided that it's time for all of us to go out, hug a child. If you come into school, hug a child, comfort them, wish them well, encourage them, and tell them it shall be well, and you are very special to all of us. And it worked well, and I'm so grateful to all my colleagues in government. All I would like to urge is that we don't stop here. That after the holidays, when we open the schools, all of us responsible people in government, when you get an opportunity, let us develop relationships and value our children. When you come across a child, hug a child and wish them well, and tell them they mean something to us, they are special, and so that we grow a society that respects family and a society that acts and behaves in a responsible manner. I'm very grateful to my brother, the chairperson of the Kenya Parents Association. We've kept consulting, and we will listen to the parents. And I want you to know that as you go along in your association, there is no issue that we will deal with away from the table. Everything must be brought to the table. We have to discuss it together. We should not have acrimony when it comes to issues involving our children. That's how we should be very responsible as we move forward. And I'm very, very grateful because of the attitude that the Kenya Parents Association has adopted in the things that we are doing as we go forward. So thank you everyone for what has happened, but of course special gratitude is reserved for the team at NEC. The circumstances under which we delivered the exam this year were a little bit different because of course, the nature of the campaigns and what was going on around the country. We ourselves were anxious about the dates of the exam when, the presidential election was nullified. But through constant discussions and engagement, by the grace of God, we've come this far. I'll make only 5 points after this and then release the results. And I'll say this. We continue to be grateful as a sector. And as I say this, there are times when I look at things and I say, I need to speak even as a citizen of this country. I am very grateful. There are very few countries, even in this region, where the president of the country wakes up in the morning and drives to a primary school. We should not take these things for granted. We're very grateful that we have leaders who are focused on the lives of our children. our president has not only led because that is what he is supposed to do, but he has demonstrated personal interest and concern in the children and young people of our country. And that's why we didn't have issues. I have to be honest with you. We got the resources that we needed. Courtesy of the president's intervention, our allocation from the treasury to deal with the issues of exams, we didn't have a problem. For the first time this year, we have closed the KCPE banking stations, and every examiner has gone home fully paid for all they did. So, next time I meet with the Honorable Sosyan, we will only have coffee. We won't talk about who has not been paid, and so on and so forth, and who's unhappy, and we'll try to make sure that that too works when it comes to KCSE. And that efficiency and that way of doing things is as a result of effective collaboration. Another feature you must notice is that through what my colleague Joe Musheru said, the President's constant one government approach is working, because the President's argument that we are one government and we must deliver services to the people of Kenya as one government, without wondering whether you are a DC, an OCS, a regional coordinator, a teacher. We are paid from the same coffers, and we are supposed to serve the people of Kenya without worrying about tabs. You know, this is my tab, you must ask me permission before you come here. That primitive way of life will not develop a country. And in this sector, we have demonstrated, and it's now clear to everyone, that collaboration makes us stronger, more effective, we deliver. As you have seen from these results and many of the things that we are going to do. And so it has been, and so it will be. We will continue to work together. We are achieving all this because of our solid work with our colleagues in ICT, our colleagues in the Ministry of Interior, and how we've worked together. And I'm so grateful to all those who have been involved. So number one, the KCPE results for 2017 demonstrate a remarkable improvement. We have actually, and I'm proud to say this as a citizen of this country, that we have now achieved almost total parity, the number of the girls and boys we register for exams, because 50.19% of the candidates we recorded were boys and 49.81% were girls, which means we have achieved parity. But there are, of course, 27 counties across the country which have done slightly better than others because they have registered more girls than boys. All of you, my colleagues, as we go forward, we need to probe these things further and ask questions. Why this, why that, and how, how best we can move forward. So counties like Kakamega, Meru, Bungoma, Nairobi, Embu, Machakos, Vihiga, Kisii, Kitui, Makueni, Siaya, Busia, Nyamira, Tharaka Nithi, Trans Nzoia, Kisumu, Nakuru, Murang'a, Mombasa, and so on, have done very well. They registered slightly higher number of girls than boys. But I need to say this, that the number of absent candidates who registered for exams but did not turn up, decreased significantly this year. Because, in the past, sometimes we register students, they drop out because of sickness, some of them are deceased or they come across a problem, and so on. That number reduced significantly this year. And when you look at the overall performance in the country, one thing I'm very proud of this year is that we have seen the emergence of public schools. In fact, I can proudly say public schools are coming back to contention. Performance in exams is no longer a preserve of private schools. We're very proud of public schools that have done very well. In fact, our second best candidate in the country is from a public school, which is very good. And we've seen a remarkable improvement, for example, of the number of candidates who scored 400 marks and above. This year is 9,846, as opposed to last year's 5,143. It means there's a remarkable improvement. But here is where it gets even much sweeter for all of us. Our children who scored below 100 marks this year, the number has reduced by about 4,000. Because last year, we had 6,747 candidates scoring less than 100 marks. That number this year is 2,360, which means, and when you look at that, it says volumes about performance. And it is true, as Professor said, as we went round, and those of you directors who are involved in the supervision of exams, you can tell clearly that as you went around, there was much more seriousness and focus in our candidates than last year, because I think we are all growing to this reality that in an environment of integrity, everyone has got to focus, everyone has got to teach. But I must say this, I'm so grateful to the teachers. This year, and allow me to say this, and I will take a responsibility for what follows thereafter. The primary school teachers are our heroes, because what I have seen in terms of performance and the head teachers of our primary schools is phenomenal. In terms of, we did not register a single case of malpractice across the country, not one. Which means that we are releasing results of all the candidates who sat for KCPE. And because we used personalized answer sheets, which is a new measure, every one of our children is getting the result. There is no one who's missing marks. No one. And the accuracy, because how we measure accuracy is how we look at the candidates who registered, the marking, and making sure that each one of those candidates has got their mark. It's 99.98, as Professor said, which means it's very effective in the way in which it has been. I am very grateful to the teachers of this country. You can see that appraisal, performance contracting are working. More of our teachers are going to work. More of our teachers are taking their work seriously. So we will stay on this trajectory, and we will do whatever it takes as government to support our teachers as we move forward. Why? Because there is no way we can talk about improved learning outcomes if we are not paying attention to how we support the teachers as we go forward. So all our energy, we want to deal with some of these administrative issues that we have in the education sector and sort them out, so that all our energy is poured to looking at the teacher and how you support the teacher. Because studies show that the teacher is the single most influential factor in the performance of the child. So how is it then that we cannot put all our energy and focus on supporting the teacher as we move forward? And that's what we are going to do as we move forward. There are many things I will discuss another day when we have a conference about the savings we are making in the education sector, about how I would like us to look at the budget in the Ministry of Education and the education sector, so that we can have resources to pour into recruitment of teachers. We can reduce the teacher-student ratio and look at how we can engage in professional development of the teachers, because that is how we are going to get the desired learning outcomes as we go forward in the country. My point number 3 is the collaboration we've had in the sector should continue. It has yielded results. I'm so grateful to our colleagues in the security sector. Professor thanked them, and I will add my voice in thanking the CDF and the Kenya Defence Forces, my colleague Rachel Mamo, the Minister for Defence, for their collaboration with us. I'm so grateful to the Inspector General of Police and the work that they were able to do. They helped us lift exams to corners we would otherwise have not been able to. We did not mind the additional cost of getting air transport. We wanted to make sure every Kenyan child sits for the exam, as it were. Number 4, we have no malpractice case to report. And how I wish and pray that we continue to run the education sector this way. So that, as it were, we have a clean environment and we socialize our children effectively. We will do, as point number 5, we will do Form 1 selection, and we hope to conclude our Form 1 placement by 4th of December. The firm instructions we have from the President is that by Jamhuri Day, every child must be placed in a school, because as you know, next year we start the implementation of the free secondary education program, and we are organizing ourselves in this particular respect. So, sorry my colleagues from the Ministry of Education, we will be working almost 24/7 to ensure that we deliver on this demand from the President. So we will do our best to ensure that our children are all placed by Jamhuri Day. So we'll meet on 4th to look at the placement and my good friend Mr. Masese will carry on with this exercise. I want to assure the country about one thing. We will place all our children who are 400 marks and above in national schools, regardless of whether they did their exams in private or public schools. We will not discriminate against any of our children. It is not responsible to do so, and we will not do it. Merit must mean something, and we will treat our children responsibly. We are so grateful to the public schools that have done very well. And the President asked us to look at the public schools, particularly that have produced candidates to the top 100 category. We will support them with resources. This morning, the PS and I have consulted, and we will actually make a special allocation to support each one of those schools that have public schools that have produced students in the top 100 category, with some funds for infrastructure support so that they can grow their capacity, as my sister Nancy and her team considers how to reward the head teachers of those public schools. When you do well, it must mean something. When you make an effort, it must mean something. Of course, Professor Magwa said I shouldn't say my usual thing that when you don't do well, you'll also be sanctioned almost with equal measure. But anyway, today is a happy day, so let me leave that alone. So, lastly, I want to say two things before we conclude this. One, due to the special needs education program and the presidential special needs education focus since last year, because the president decided that we pay special attention to special needs schools. Those that are in high school category, we made a special allocation for them. And then we began to pay special attention to how we manage special needs educational institutions. And again, I am proud to report that you can see the fruits of that presidential special needs education focus. Because this year, our special needs candidates have produced 6 of the top 100 candidates in the country. And these 2 will go into our national schools, especially the ones that are integrated. And I want them to know this, that we will even intensify our support to them this year, so that we pay attention to our special needs children across the board. Lastly, but not the least, our highest candidate this year scored 455 marks. You know, last year, the top candidate scored 437. So the top candidate this year scored 455, which is a remarkable improvement. In fact, if last year's top candidate was ranked, they will not even be in the top 20 category this year, because we have candidates who have performed very well, 443 in the top 20 in the country, which says that performance in the exam this year has shown a remarkable improvement on last year's performance. We're very grateful that we have registered improvement in all subjects except 2, and we are going to pay attention to science, social studies, and religious education, where we have noticed a drop in performance this year. But all other subjects have recorded growth or improvement in performance. So we wish all our children well as they progress to high school. We assure them that the government is paying attention, and we are committed to ensuring that they get a good education. We will do our best within the resources we have. I want to assure my colleague teachers across the country that we are focused on working with them to raise our children, and we will spare no effort to address their concerns and their needs, and continue to bleed, as I've always done, that we create an enabling environment for our children to learn. And that enabling environment includes, we in the education sector, engendering a culture of constant conversation as opposed to conflict. There is no issue we cannot deal with at the table. Whatever issues there are, we must come together, resolve them for the sake of our children. I thank our head teachers across the board. I thank our principals for the hard work they have done. I thank Kenya National Examinations Council, and insist that even then, much as today is a happy day, we will not again fail in our responsibility to ensure that we bring about the necessary discipline in the sector as we go forward. So we shall treat with a measure of ruthlessness anyone who tries to interfere or anyone who messes up with the lives and the welfare of our children. Our children are important members of our society. They are gifts to us from God, and we will not play games with their welfare and their life. And this culture of messing up exams must end and end forever. And we will not live that way, and we are not going back to that bad culture. So for parents who have candidates, you can now send your child's index number to 22252, and you'll get your result. When we are done with the Form 1 placement, the letters will also be available electronically the way we did last year, so that we make it easier for all our parents to access the schools that their children would have been selected to. And we will have plenty of time, and that's why it's good to do it now. We have plenty of time to address whatever issues that our parents may have, and our teachers in placing our children in Form 1, so that by the time we begin the year, all our children are able to go to school effectively. On behalf of all my colleagues in the sector, I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a prosperous New Year. And may the Lord bless you indeed as we continue to serve. Thank you.